Well, we hear so many stories about people coming to the United States with very little or absolutely nothing and making it big. What is it about America that makes people fight to get here? And what is it about those people that make them so hardworking? Myself, in my personal experience, have noticed that there's something about the immigrants in this country, especially for some reason it seems to me, and this is anecdotal, but the Eastern Bloc immigrants that have just this hardcore work ethic that I think in some ways Americans have lost. So we are going to talk to my guest today, Melory Tsipouria. I hope, did I say that right?
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. It's nice to have you. And I actually met you out and about in a civic event, at a civic event, and you were volunteering, giving your time, which you do a lot of. But tell us a little bit about your story, how it was you came to America, why you came to America.
Well, it's a long story. I came to America in 1990 from country of Georgia. That's a country, not a state. So I'm Georgian without a funny accent.
Right, no accent at all.
But at the time, I was heavily involved in an opposition movement there in Georgia. And when I came to the United States, I continued in that activity, struggling or helping people who struggled for obtaining their freedoms. And so I've been here ever since. In San Diego, I've been since 1998 in San Diego area. As far as business and differences, I never look at that way, but perhaps we just try to not to use any excuses, just work hard, being responsible, being reliable in a business, and with that type of attitude, we think you could succeed. And that's what I have done throughout my life here in the United States. And I'm a owner of small commercial business. This last business I started in 2009, which wasn't very good time to start any business, if you remember. But nevertheless, initially we struggled, and it's still hard, but we started growing, and again, using those principles, not to use any excuses, not ask for a, kind of help and handouts, and just work hard. And then we have grown through kind of word of mouth and recommendation and so forth. And I personally believe if you do that in any business, you have a very good chance of succeeding.
What do natural-born American citizens take the most for granted?
Well, I think what I've noticed, and again, I've been here plenty of time already, 24 years, as I mentioned, that not all of them, obviously, but some of them, they look for too much help and too much, kind of government handout. And at the same time, I think there is too much regulation as far as, if government gives you some gifts with some strings attached. So in that regard, especially on kind of smaller scale, I think you should rely more on yourself and on your creativity as opposed to some government help and handouts. And as far as the regulation I mentioned, whether you're a small business or large business, that bothers us. Too much regulation, especially with this unveiling of and implementing with Obamacare. That's cause of concern. By the way, I mentioned that I am from a country of Georgia, and this is a country that still struggles to regain completely freedom from its old rulers. But the reason I'm mentioning that in this business contest, even Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, when she was Secretary of State a couple of years ago, she admitted that we could borrow something from them. And particularly, it was a conversation about they made huge reforms. And for example, there is one government building which you can get all the bills paid, all the business licenses. It's just one stop. So it is something, I'm kind of trying to compare things.
Yes, I think that's
America
good.
has become a freedom in so many ways, but things have gotten so complicated in many regards, especially when it comes to business and regulations and so forth. And there are some other countries, Eastern Bloc, for example, like Georgia, and they're trying to do kind of right way, probably something similar way America was starting back in the days. And hopefully America won't get away from its it's tradition being free country when it comes to economy as well, and being free, meaning to have less regulation, less burden on the people, and let them, work and grow and create jobs and prosperity for everybody.
Abraham Lincoln said that America won't likely be destroyed by outside forces, that America can only destroy herself from within. Is that what you see happening, and do you see a path back?
I do, and I would agree with that statement. And I think too much dependency could destroy this system, destroy this country, if you will, as we know it. So America always was relied on entrepreneurship, hardworking people, on creativity, and with this too much regulation and too many rules, we kind of burden overly our business sector, and yes, and that could bring more negative consequences as far as our growth. And if we're going to be free, we're going to be free because of our strong economy. And yes, I would agree with that statement. That is the danger.
So you obviously take a very personal approach to your civic involvement. I mentioned that I met you at an event, and it was a Republican event, and it was for the advocacy of free market and good government and small government, because you and I share the belief that that's really important. How much does it matter that the average American who feels like maybe they don't have that much power or impact, how important is it to stay involved in civic government, especially in these more discouraging times?
Yes, it is very important, because if we do not stand up and be involved and pressure our politicians, then nothing going to be solved.
But people feel like their voice doesn't matter, like no one hears them when they
matters. Try. I do not agree that voice doesn't matter. We see election after election throughout the country. Sometimes some elections are decided by very few votes, and that's the difference between those two candidates are very stark as far as how one views economic freedoms and rules and regulations and so on and so forth. So it matters. It matters. We should be involved. We should identify people who stand for freedom, for less regulation, less government, and we should be involved and and encourage everybody else around us to get involved.
All right.
People who make difference are people who show up.
Yeah.
Just sitting home.
Definitely not going to make a difference.
Then you should not complain.
That's right. Melory Tsipouria, I really appreciate you being on the show with us today. I appreciate your involvement, and I appreciate you taking time to share with Americans what you see, almost as a former outsider, I guess, looking in and observing the changes and wanting to confront the ones that aren't as good as some others. So I appreciate you being on the show today, making us a little bit smarter. Thank you.
Thank you for
so much for being with us. Up next, we continue talking about the lazy and the productive. Are we creating a generation of takers, or are today's kids going to be the next greatest generation? It could happen. Then we go to your calls. The number 888-650-8176, or you can go to the Smart Life page at moneybizlife.com and click on Ask Dr. Gina and send us an email, or you can always find us out there in social media. Producer Jason City back there waiting for your phone calls, so you can call him now. We'll be back in a moment with more Smart Life. Stay tuned.